Alrighty. I just can't even. I can't even stand this shit anymore. Pardon my French. Okay, this is Star Wars we're talking about. Okay, and this show, it looks really good to me. I mean, it really does. But if the actors and definitely the writers, if they don't have like a solid sense of what Star Wars is about, how can they write? How can they write good television? Like, how can they write good stories? Just listen to what this. I'm sure he's a very nice guy, but just listen to what he says, and then somewhat contradicts himself right after.
A battle for power. I mean, the best parts about Star Wars is there is no good or evil. It depends on what side you're standing on, truly.
There is no good or evil. What's the light side? What's the dark side? Yeah, there's a gray area. There actually are gray Jedi. But that doesn't mean that good and evil don't exist. I don't understand this position of, you know, there is no good or evil. Just it all depends on your perspective. Like, you have to be so like self-absorbed to just assume that you if you were in someone else's shoes, you might make that. No, that's not how it works. Like, I don't like it's kind of an abstract idea, but I mean, like, I don't think he can even comprehend abstract ideas. If that's really what he thinks, there is no good or evil. Okay. Do you know when you do something bad? Do you know when you do something good? Like, oh, this.
I mean, the best parts about Star Wars is there is no good or evil. It depends on what side you're standing on, truly. You know what I mean? That you can look at any angle and see yourself relayed through all the characters, Darth to Luke.
He's not wrong there, but by putting the there is no good or evil before that, just makes it just stupid. It's just stupid. Like, I'm so sick of this like spirituality and kindness and acceptance and love and tolerance and understanding. All those things I stand for. Like, I truly in my heart I stand for those things, but they have taken those things and pushed them to as far as they can. Like, ugh, accept everything. Everything's like it's like this new age bullshit. Everyone it's I swear, like, it started on TikTok or some shit. Like, everyone is just all into manifesting and la da 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 da. Yeah, like, and I am too, but like, these people don't know what the fuck they're talking about, is what I'm trying to tell you. Like, these people don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They're just frankly, a lot of them are just narcissists. I mean,
Know what I'm saying? But this show, yeah, I shouldn't use Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. I'm sorry, I'm too casual with that. This show is truly about that balance of power and balance of
balance
good
between what? Good and
versus evil, and realizing that
what are
so
you
much of
talking
it,
about, bro?
starts at the root. Truly.
I don't want to roast
I
this
also
guy.
say it's a
I'm sure he's a very nice guy, but like, God, dude, like, how do you do that? The best thing about Star Wars is there is no good or evil. It depends on what side you're on. What side you're on. Come on, it's right. The best thing about Star Wars is there is no power, or there is no good versus evil. It's about power and a balance of good versus. Come on, dude.
So much of
I'm
it,
sure he's nervous, but
starts at the roots,
Yeah.
truly.
I also say it's a very emotional show in a way. It's kind of got a very human quality, which is, I think, what drew all of us as creatives apart from the huge Star Wars element of it, which I think we're all fans of it. It was a really human show, and it's really fun as an actor to get to step into that.
I just can't stand this. There is no good or evil. Like Star Wars is based on good and evil. Like George Lucas, he explains it. I mean, like we all have good and evil in us because we have the selfish side of us and we have the compassionate side of us. The idea is how do you keep those things in balance? And by keeping those things in balance, simple, pretty simple. See, this whole good versus evil narrative is what it is it's an assault on truth itself, along with other things that they're doing. It's literally just an assault on truth. It's confusing people, and when you start to tweak these basic archetypes, when you start to change the hero's story in these films and in these shows, it does not resonate. It just doesn't. The thing about archetypes is that they're universally understood no matter what color you are, no matter what country you live in, what language you speak, what religion you worship, abide by, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's gonna resonate in some fashion. It reminds me of like when what was it? There's actually a few examples of this, right? Where there's an actor that's playing a character, and they talk about how growing up, I always saw myself as Galadriel. She was so great. She was so awesome. Or that's not a good example because let me think. Um, I'm trying to think of it. There's a few I've seen where an actor is playing the first time a character that was white, a black actor is playing as that character, and they say, "I always saw myself as Aragorn. Now I get to be him." And now young boys like me can grow up and realize that they can be a Jedi too, or what have you. And it's like you just explained how you were able to see yourself in that character. Why? Why do you need? Why does it need to be race swapped? And I don't have a really big problem with race swaps. In Lord of the Rings, I had a bit of an issue because that lore is very specific and kind of culturally based around like like parts of England and stuff, and there's just so many aspects of that didn't make sense to me, and I thought that I have such respect for Tolkien that I don't know. I wasn't a fan of that, and then I say, oh no, we don't typecast. We don't typecast. How come I've never seen a white person play a black character? Then if you don't typecast, it's funny how it's only people of color that play these roles, but
Mythology is really a way for society to, there are stories that are told to the people in the society to make them into a society so that they have a common belief system. And you do that not by giving them a bunch of lessons, but to give them heroes, people who we admire, who we want to emulate, and they do things wrong, and you say, don't do those things wrong, do these things. These are what friendships mean. We know you have these feelings about your father. It's not a secret. And your mother. And there's a lot of psychology involved in it. But they would pass these things along, and then the society would have a common history. And it would be bigger than life. And they would all join together, and they would use that, to make their society function.
What interests you about the conflict between good and evil?
Well, the conflict between good and evil is the basic conflict. The universal question is, am I a good person? I mean, not counting social misfits, of course.
People like you and me.
Yeah, No, no, I mean,
Am I a
more,
good, are you a good person?
I try to be a good person. But of course, that's a very complicated question.
It is.
And it's something you have to ponder because you're doing it every day.
I want to say something about that. People these days, they don't really ever deeply question themselves about what they truly believe. It's all superficial ish, like spiritual bypassing passing ish, bullshitish shit. Like anyone on the street, go ask them. What do you think about, like, if you ask that question that George was just asked? Do you think you're a good person? Everyone would say, of course, yes. They've never thought about it. Like, you've never done anything where you know, I always think of like the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other, right? You never wake up and like think, I should do this. I really need to get it done. And then there's another voice in your head that's like, oh, I could just sit here and watch YouTube, do nothing. Like that's ego versus consciousness. That's the good force within you pushing you to do what you know to be right. And when you go against that, it affects you. It's a detrimental. It's not good. You know it in your very being, in your very soul. You know it is not good, but you do it. And obviously, there's much more extreme examples of that than getting up early to work out and sitting in your bed for a while watching YouTube. But no, I'm just saying, no one ponders this stuff deeply anymore. It's
Saying, should I do this or shouldn't I do this? Now, through mythology and things, we're taught certain things that are good and certain things that are bad. But a thinking person questions all that and say, is this really good? Am I really doing the right thing here? Am I really being a kind, compassionate person? Because to me, it's really about a compassionate person as opposed to a person that is consumed with self-interest or a selfish person.
And we have so many people these days that are like, NPCs walking around. They don't question anything. They haven't faced much adversity in their life. So all they have is to look inward or outward at things they don't like and destroy them. There's no there's a lot of people consumed in self-interest or selfish people that are just so altruistic and so good-hearted, and no, they're not.
Those are the two things. We all have good and evil in us because we have the selfish side of us and we have the compassionate side of us. The idea is, how do you keep those things in balance? And by keeping those things in balance, you can do a lot of good things.
See, and right now, we don't have balance. We don't. I really believe they're actively trying to make. Okay, let's say that growing up, think of your understanding of life and morality and virtue as a balance beam. They're taking that and they're narrowing it and making it difficult to understand where is that balance. Kids these days, growing up with, the social media, I really can't imagine. I mean, I was born in 92, so I was on the cusp of that, which I feel very blessed by the fact that I was born on the cusp of that, because you can see the evolution of it. But think about growing up. I remember feeling pressure asking my mom to get a flip phone. I remember feeling pressure like when I wanted to get my first Facebook. I know there's these social pressures. So if you want to fit in school these days, I imagine you have to have some sort of social media, or if you feel like you have to. And so in that case, most people do. And what do you post on social media? You only post the good stuff. You only post what you want people to see. unless you're incredibly authentic and want the world to see all facets and all sides of you. But that's extremely rare. I mean, like the I don't know. I don't know. What I do know is that they are really just trying to confuse and destroy the truth. And these kids, they almost probably have a double life. I can't. It's probably hard to even form your a good sense of self when you're portraying yourself online in a bright light. I can't imagine what that does to your brain. It cannot be good. I'm sure that there's. I mean, I know there's plenty of people that are handling it just fine, but what I'm trying to say is the internet is bad. The algorithms are full of junk. It's an incredible tool, but the algorithms need changing. I mean, if you haven't watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix, I highly recommend you watch that because it gives you a very good, it kind of draws the curtain open on what's going on behind the scenes of social media as far as algorithms and what have you. But, God, just, I'll end it there, I guess. I love you guys. Find balance in your life. I'm going to make a video soon on what I mentioned earlier, the devil and the angel on the shoulders. In terms of mushrooms. And maybe I'll go a bit into Lord of the Rings and how that changed my life. And it actually helped me become a sober person. So, yeah. We'll see.